Or are you going to the back now?
Hello everyone, welcome back to Which is the Moon. I'm your Monday hostess Natalie, and this week is our how-to series. Based on the video that I did a couple of weeks ago on types of water, and I talked about hydrosols, I had a lot of people asking me questions and private messaging me about that, so I thought today I would demonstrate my method for making a hydrosol. Now, one thing that you are going to need that I have not put in here yet is ice, so allow me to get some ice. Okay, so you're going to need a bowl of ice. You will need whatever materials you're going to make your hydrosol out of. In this case, I have some fresh rosemary from my garden. And I like to throw in a little bit of a citrusy tang. Sometimes I'll make rosemary by itself if I want to use it as like a disinfectant type of spray. But if I'm using it for like a home spray or for a spritzer, I will throw in a little bit of dried orange peel, just to kind of give it that citrusy kind of smell. It's also good for cleansing, like spiritual cleansings. So you will need ice, your material, a glass jar that has been cleaned and sterilized. You will need 2 glass bowls. In this case, I'm going to be using my Pyrex cup. You're going to need distilled water, and it needs to be distilled, and you will need a large pot with a lid. Now, before you get started on this, you will need to wash your pot and your lid thoroughly and dry it thoroughly using hot soapy water, because you don't want any kind of bacteria growing in your hydrosol. So essentially what you're going to do, this is a really simple method, you're going to take one of your glass bowls and you're going to turn it upside down into your pot like this. Okay, so it's going to sit in the center of the pot. And what you're going to do is you're going to take your materials and you're going to put them around the bowl. Now, you don't want them on top of the bowl. You want them around the bowl in the bottom of the pot. Okay? And you need just, you don't need a whole lot, but, clearly the fresher you can use, the better, which is why I choose rosemary from my garden. I'm certain you could probably use dried rosemary. I've just never tried it. But you can use like dried rose petals. Really, you can make a hydrosol, excuse me, out of anything. So, dandelions, you can use chamomile, you can use rose petals. I love to use rose petals and use a rose hydrosol for a spritzer, a face spritzer. It's wonderful. Rosemary makes a good astringent type of spray, like I said, and then you're just going to layer that stuff around the bowl. Again, you don't want it on top of the bowl. You want it just kind of around the bowl where it's in the bottom. And I'm going to take the camera for a second and show you what I'm talking about. So come over here and you can see that I have the bowl in the center and I have my rosemary, my orange petals around it. On top of this, the reason it's key that this is on the bottom, and really I probably should have removed that. I may go ahead and take a second and remove that sticker. You really don't want anything on your bowls. You don't want anything that might affect your hydrosol or put bacteria in it. But in this case, you know what? I'm probably going to end up doing this. I'm going to take a nice clean bowl. I just cleaned this bowl so I know it's clean. I'm going to put it in the bottom of the pot. So I didn't realize that had a sticker on it. I didn't even think about that. Okay. So now my bowl is in the bottom of the pot. I want to make sure that I'm getting this correctly. Sorry about that, folks. I'm having to man the camera myself, people, so bear with me. Appreciate your patience. Now you're going to take your distilled water, and what you're going to do is you're going to put the water in the bottom of your thing, just enough to kind of cover the top of your herbs that you're using to make this. Whatever you're using to make it, you want just enough to kind of come to the top and kind of cover it a little bit. Okay, so once you get that water in there, you're going to take your other cup and you're going to put it face up on top of the one in the middle. Now this is the most important step here besides the cleansing. The reason that you want a pot with a lid is that your lid is going to act as your condenser. So you're going to put your lid upside down on top of the pot. And then you're going to put your ice cubes. Now in this pot, it doesn't always work great, but this is the only one I have that's got this kind of a lid. So you actually want to use a lid that's got a little bit of a rim, because these ice cubes are going to melt and you're going to have to replace them. So unless you're prepared to clean up a big mess like I'm going to have to do, find some way to catch your water. Okay, so you put your ice cubes on the top, and what this does is this creates a condenser type of thing. Make sure your lid is on there, sealed all the way, because you don't want any of this water getting into your hydrosol. And then you're just going to turn it on to medium-high heat. I like to put it about 4 on a 1 to 6 and then high scale, just to give it a little bit of time to simmer. And what you're going to do is you're going to simmer this on that medium-high heat. You're going to have to change your ice cubes periodically, so you'll need to dump the water off and add more. Mine's probably just going to dribble off and dissipate on the heat here. But what this does is that cold versus the hot causes a condensation, and the handle itself works as your condenser point so that it drips that hydrosol into your cup that's upside. Now, I used a Pyrex cup because I like to measure how much hydrosol I have. So basically, you're just going to let that sit, and then periodically, you're going to put more ice cubes on here as these melt down. So I'm going to put this back in the freezer, if I can find room, just so that I will have those ice cubes that are not going to melt. So I will be pulling those out, and I'll be putting them on here. Again, it's important that you're using distilled water because it's purified. And then once you get your hydrosol into your cup, and you'll want to simmer this for maybe about, I would say maybe about 2 to 3 hours. You are going to need to check periodically. So as your ice melts off, you're going to open your lid and make sure that your water level is staying above the level of your herb. So you will very likely have to add more water. I find that I usually have to add water at least once, sometimes twice, when I'm making a hydrosol, because it's going to condense out. And if you don't keep that water level up, you can actually burn the herb and ruin the hydrosol. So make sure that you're checking that. And then when your hydrosol is all condensed, you're going to store it in your glass jar. Label it. You can keep it in the fridge. If you want to use it as like a spritzer, get the brown bottles with the sprays. If you have access to Amazon, you can order those on Amazon. The blue ones are okay too. There's like a cobalt blue one. But I find that, you don't want sunlight to damage. So keep them out of the direct heat. If you keep your hydrosol in the fridge, it'll last you about a year. Make sure you're checking it though, because you want to make sure that you don't have anything growing in your hydrosol. If you notice that it's starting to look kind of foggier or something like that, it's very likely that somehow some bacteria has gotten in there, so dump it out. Okay, don't be using it on your face. But that's how that works. So we're going to give this a few minutes to kind of boil down, and then that's really it, folks. That is how you do it. Just make sure that you're keeping your ice cubes replaced, and that you're cleaning up any mess you got, and checking your water level. And then, like I said, after about 2 to 3 hours, depending on how much hydrosol you're trying to make, it's going to depend. So just kind of keep an eye on it. When you have the amount of hydrosol that you want, then you can go ahead and turn everything off. Now the herbs themselves, I really hate to waste herbs, but once you've eked the hydrosol out of it, really there's not a lot you can do with it, I guess. If you want to dry it out and still use it for cooking, I suppose you could, but I won't do that because I mixed it with the orange peels, so I don't want to do that. If you're going to use dried out materials like rose petals or orange peels like I did, make sure that they are thoroughly dried, and make sure that they don't have any kind of mold or mildew growing on them, because that will affect your hydrosol. And that's really it, folks. Just, again, make sure that you're checking your ice cubes at your water level and change out your ice cubes. And that is how you make a hydrosol. Thank you so much for watching, and blessed be. Okay, I wasn't going to film this, but I decided to go ahead and film this. As you can see, I have changed the lid to one that is a little bit more conducive. It still has that same type of drip lid. I was going to try a smaller lid, but it didn't fit. There's a little bit of steam escaping, but that's not really a big deal. There's still plenty of hydrosol that's being created. You can see that the ice cubes are starting to melt down. So I'm going to take a moment and change those out. Take a moment. I've taken the ice and I've dumped it into the sink. I wanted to take a moment. You can see that there is some hydrosol forming in the cup, and you want to take this moment to check your water levels and make sure that it's staying up above the level of your herb. Right now the water level is looking good, so I will not add more water. Be sure that if you do add water, you're not getting the distilled water into your hydrosol. It's not going to necessarily damage it, but it's certainly going to make it not as effective. So I'm going to put some more ice in here, put the ice on there, and I'll keep doing that periodically.